A delightful morning to everyone. It's wonderful to have you join us for another one of HOWA's virtual caravan class on Reputation is Everything. There will be a 30-minute talk from our presenter and 30 minutes for questions and answers. The chat will open up at 9:25 for you to send your questions on the topic of Reputation is Everything. The class ends at 10. However, the chat feature will remain open for an additional 15 minutes to interact with the presenter and other attendees. It's my pleasure to introduce you to our speaker this morning, Phyllis Bickford. Phyllis has been a nomad for 2 years, living and traveling on BLM and National Forest public lands. During this time, she has experienced boondocking alone with friends, with homes on wheels, caravans, as well as overnight stays at Walmart and truck stops. Today, she will talk with you about how our reputation as a nomad is everything. Everything to you as an individual, as a member of the nomad community at large, and to the world. Please welcome Phyllis Bickford. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. It's good to see you here again. I looked over the list of RSVP people and saw a lot of new faces. Some people that I've gotten to know over the virtual caravan campfires and coffees, but also many of you that I haven't got to meet yet. So welcome. I'm glad you're all here this morning. And I hope that, that this is a useful class for you this morning. Not the typical thing we normally cover, like finding boondocking locations, how to find water, how to use GPS coordinates. But you know what? It's a foundational kind of concept that's really, really important to all of us. It's important to us as individuals because, as you know, reputation is everything when it comes to ourselves. It affects the way you're treated. It affects how you're treated is based heavily on your reputation as an individual and as a representative of a group, whether you represent all men, all women, all millennials, all seniors, all nomads. We are parts of groups, and people see us as part of that group, and the way we behave affects the reputation of that whole group. Unfortunately, people have a tendency to they expand their judgment on your behavior to cover the whole group. So you see, our reputation not only affects us, but it affects other nomads, and it affects how we're going to be perceived and treated as we're out there in the community, on public land, at a Walmart parking lot, wherever we might be. So let's talk a little bit about this today. What is the foundation of reputation? And I thought about it a lot this week, and what I came up with is, through research as well as my own experience, is that integrity is the foundation of reputation. What is integrity? What is individual integrity? Well, it's in the most simple of terms, it's that do your actions reflect your beliefs? Now, we don't sit around and think a lot about our beliefs, our foundational morals that we were taught as we grew up or that we learned as we got older. But that foundation of your beliefs is where you start. And now, how do you have these abstract beliefs in your brain? How do they manifest? And they manifest by your behavior. And if your behavior matches your beliefs, you have integrity. You know that you're doing the right thing because you're consistent. You know that your behaviors match your beliefs. You take responsibility for your actions because you believe in them, and you have a sense that these are the way to go forward in life. And there are times in life when your beliefs are not necessarily the most popular, or they might not be what you see all being reflected around you, but you want to see them become a group norm. So if you've heard that phrase before about being the change you want to see. So by having integrity, having your beliefs, taking action on those beliefs, having personal integrity, you can affect the world around you. So who's affected? Who's affected when you have these beliefs and that you act on those beliefs with integrity? Well, you are. You are ultimately affected because you feel consistent. And life is so much simpler. You don't have to think, what should I do next? You know what to do next because you know what your beliefs are. And if you think about what you're going to do and it doesn't feel right, you know that you're violating your integrity. You're violating your beliefs. So life is much simpler when you have integrity. You don't need to mull over, should I be doing this or not? Because if you stop and think for a minute, more than likely, you already know. So you're ultimately affected by your integrity, but also your fellow nomads. The nomad community is affected by your integrity because, as I mentioned before, that when we're all part of groups. And when people look at me, they look at me and they know I'm a nomad. They know that, I've got a high top van. My van's got a lot of dust on it. I've got out of state plates. There's a good chance that I'm on the road. And so when I behave in a certain way in public, and they see that, they don't just see me, they see me, a senior woman, a nomadic senior woman. And so all of those different categories get a little bit of judgment passed on them by my behavior. It's kind of scary, isn't it? We carry a strong load. All of us carry a very heavy load on how our behaviors affect all of those different communities, all those different categories, and affect the next person down the road, the next woman down the road, the next senior woman down the road, the next nomad down the road, based on my behaviors. So you see, your integrity, which is the foundation of your reputation, affects not only you, but it affects all these other categories that you represent. And who looks at us? Other nomads. Other nomads definitely look at us. And the community looks at us. BLM looks at us. National forests look at us. And they say, nomads are good for us. Nomads bring money into the community. Nomads are using public land responsibly. All the different ways that they can look at us in a positive light, or they set up camp, those nomads, they set up camp in the Walmart parking lot and stay there for a week, set up their barbecue, and leave trash behind when they go. Those nomads are putting trash in our local businesses' dumpsters and causing them to have to pay more for trash. Those nomads come into town and use our facilities, but don't leave anything behind, like any of their money. So you see, they do form judgments on us based on our behavior. So it's important for us to be good guests in the communities, to be good guests on the BLM land, and to be good guests and role models for other nomads. So I talked about moral integrity, and I'd like to go back to that a little bit, saying again that having integrity, which is what the foundation of reputation, is doing the right thing. And you know when it's the right thing because it aligns with your beliefs that you've been taught and that you've adopted through our societal norms. It also has in it a foundation of the personal quality of fairness. I'm going to be fair. I'm going to treat you with respect because I want to be treated with respect, and it's only fair that I treat you with respect. So that knowing that you're part of a community, that you are going to go forward and treat others as you would like to be treated, okay, with fairness. when you have integrity, it means that you're not going to do things that demean yourself. That means that violate your belief system. When you violate your belief system, you've demeaned yourself, and it dishonors you. And you do these things, these right things. You follow these right paths, no matter who's watching. So I know that as nomads, when you leave a campsite, you don't leave trash behind, even if you're the last one out of that campsite, because it doesn't matter if anybody's watching you. You know you couldn't live with yourself if you trashed the site and walked away. And that's true for all of your belief systems, not just about trash, okay? You do them even when someone else isn't watching you. The nice thing about having integrity is that we feel whole and we feel in good condition. We feel like we have a foundation to hang on to. The reason I'm bringing this up again is because you want to know sometimes, am I doing something with integrity? Well, you can know because you're going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to feel that there's inconsistencies. You're going to think, would I do this if my mom were watching? Would I do this if my mom wasn't watching? So all of these things help you know that you're aligning your behaviors with your belief system. Life becomes much more simple when we follow our belief system, when we have integrity. Life is much simpler. We don't have to worry about hiding things because we're transparent. What you see is what I believe, and it's one unit. There's nothing to hide, and it's a good thing. We become dependable and we become role models for others because others can sense that integrity. They can sense that dependability. And I'm going to put up a poll right now. We haven't done polls before in our classes, but I'm going to do that now because I think they're kind of fun. So this is our the first poll, and it's about pet peeves. Let's get down to some specifics. So if you have a touch screen or if you're at a computer and you have a mouse, I'd like you to vote. And we're talking about pet peeves now because pet peeves are those things that other people do that bother you. And let's just start there. So go ahead and if you can, touch your screen and choose the top 3 pet peeves when you camp with others. This is multiple choice, so you can choose 3 different things. So if you're out there, go ahead and make a vote. And we've been into this good. I'm seeing some votes coming in. The selections could be that people are too noisy, they run their generator during sleep times, they drive too fast in camp, they park too close to your campsite, loose dogs, the poop, the pee, the jumping. They poke their heads into your rig uninvited. They leave trash behind. They take over group conversations at the campfire. All right. I'm going to let that run for another 10 seconds. So get your votes in there. And then we're going to take a look at what you guys consider the most egregious of these bad behaviors. Okay, I'm closing polling now, and I'm going to share the results with you. So my goodness, you can see on the screen that the leave the trash behind is the winner. Leaving trash behind is the most of all of us, the pet peeve that bothers us the most. The second one is being too noisy. And then running a generator goes kind of along with being too noisy, doesn't it? Although it does seem to have its own special category. And we hear a lot about people parking too close to your campsite, but that's like the 4th on the list of things that people bothering other people, other nomads. And poking your head into rigs uninvited is way up on the list too. That's like 3rd on the list. All right, that's good. So why do we talk about pet peeves? We talk about pet peeves because those are things other people do that bother us. And maybe we could take a look at those and see why they bother us. And the reason I'm talking about pet peeves and integrity, because what's the matter with people? Don't they have the same sense of integrity that we have? That the same beliefs about valuing and respecting other people? Makes you wonder. So let me put up a second poll. Let me see. I want to get down to my second poll. That's poll number 1. There's poll number 2. So now I'm going to launch this poll, and this is why these why are these pet peeves annoying to us? I'd like you to choose your top 3 on these. So thinking back on the pet peeves that you selected, tell me the top 3 reasons that those are your top pet peeves. Do they invade your space? Are the behaviors selfish or self-centered? They disturb your environment. They're just not polite. And the behavior's careless. The behavior's destructive. The people are just jerks. They're inconsiderate. They're drunk or high. So give us an idea about what your, and also the very bottom one, they must be locals. So why are these pet peeves going on? Why are they bothering you as an individual? What values do you have that you're annoyed with? So please check the top 3 that go on for you, that you hold. All right, we're moving along here. I've got another, let's see, another 10 minutes, and I'm going, 10 seconds rather, and I'm going to close this poll. And then let's look at the results. All right, I'm ending the poll now. And let's look at the results. Oh, look at that. Now, you know, that just totally fits. So the top pet peeve was people leaving trash behind, right? Well, now if you look at the reasons why this is so annoying, is because it's destructive. Absolutely. I mean, leaving trash behind is destructive. The second one up here looks to be that it invades your space. This is totally consistent with what the top pet peeves were about people parking too close or poking their head into your rig. Let's see. And then they're just inconsiderate. They're just inconsiderate. So our values, if you look at this, it's telling us that our beliefs are that we should respect each other's space, that we should not behave in a selfish or self-centered manner, that we should protect the environment and other people's environment too, whether it's noise, whether it's seeing other people's trash laying around. We want to not disturb other people's environment. We would like to be polite. We'd like to be careful, not careless. And certainly constructive, not destructive. Being a jerk, well, it's fun. We do have people out there that are jerks, and we don't want to be one. We want to be considerate. And while we might drink and we might do recreational drugs, it doesn't mean that we need to be drunk or high in public. And they must be locals. Well, we can't do much about that because we're not locals. But let's keep in mind that locals have a place here, and their values might be somewhat different than ours because they don't live in the environment we're living in. I'm going to stop sharing this, and going to talk a minute again about how it is that, let me take one more peek here. Yeah. So you see that the things that annoy us really come down to our beliefs. We believe that I should be treated with respect. We believe that we shouldn't destroy our environment. And when we have integrity, we act on those. And when other people don't, we feel violated by theirs. And it affects the people that violate those beliefs, lose our respect. And since we know ourselves that our integrity is based on our beliefs and we need to behave according to our beliefs, we won't become the pet peeves of others. By not being the pet peeves of others, we will have more respect, whether it's for ourselves, from other nomads, or from the community, whether it's the Walmarts or the Cracker Barrels or the truck stops or the public lands like BLM land or national forests. So it's important for us to not violate ourselves, our own integrity. And we would hope that as we role model that, others will rise. It'll become contagious. Whereas if we do violate our beliefs and we leave trash behind, we are too noisy, we're parking too close, we're not respecting other people's privacy, other monkey see, monkey do. They see us doing it and they think, I'm going to do it right back. When I look through some of the Facebook postings, sometimes I see people that say, oh my gosh, look at what this person did to me. Look what they did. They parked right up next to my rig. And if you look through the comments, a lot of people say leave, a lot of people, all kinds of advice. And some of the advice is behave in the same way that they're used to behaving. So if somebody parks too close to them, they don't deserve being respected back. And of course, you see that what happens then is that now you end up with a war. And this is a common comment that I'll see on Facebook. So rather than either leaving the situation or talking it over as a first step, which would then, you see, increase community and increase cooperation, they meet disrespect with more disrespect. And that just breaks down the community, doesn't it? And it breaks down, it violates, I assume, your own personal integrity, because you have shown me through your polling right here that you do value respect of other space and environment. Another one I want to touch on, I keep using the word environment, and we've talked about trash. And part of it goes along with the whole leave no trace movement. And I'm sure you've all heard of this one way or another. There's, if you go to leavenotrace.org, it's a nonprofit organization that promotes pack it in, pack it out, and other sorts of behaviors that will make us good citizens of the earth. We need to remember that we're here as a guest of Mother Earth, and we need to act like good guests. I will put the link for Leave No Trace below under the description when this gets posted on YouTube. It is actually, even though it's Leave No Trace, and if you were to Google that, it'll pop up, it's actually lnt.org, leavenotrace.org. It's something that I see most nomads practicing, even though they may not have gone and looked at the 10 principles of Leave No Trace. But it might be something, if you haven't looked at, that you'd want to go take a peek at, because it gives you some thoughts that you may not have even considered. It's not just about leaving trash behind, but it's not damaging the land. And when you start thinking about how BLM and national forests look at nomads, this is part of it. This is why some of the lands have been closed, in order to give them a rest, because as nomads, we're out there and not necessarily watching out for the plant life or disturbing the ground in general, or some people are leaving the trash, which of course BLM is not very much a fan of. And I think a couple of years ago, or a year and a half ago, there were some wonderful cleanups in the Ehrenberg area down near Quartzsite, and that one of them was organized by a group, and then HOWA came in with a group of volunteers and did some more work. But there's nothing to say that you, as small groups gathered together can't do the same, that you can't go through and you're going to be camping at an area for 2 weeks. So let's say the first day you all grab a trash bag and go on out and pick it up. And then don't take it to town and put it in a Walmart trash can because it's probably going to be enormous. Instead, take it to the landfill or find a public dumpster that you can take it to. All right, at this point, we have about... Hi, Alicia.
Right in time. You have 5 minutes left for your presentation, and the chat will now be open for attendees to send you questions.
Wonderful. That's great. Please put in your questions. This is kind of a dry topic. It's kind of an abstract topic, but it's really the foundation of how we're perceived in the world as nomads, as and how widespread our behaviors can affect not just ourselves, but the nomad community, our being able to use different properties like Walmart parking lots and public lands. So it's an important concept for us to be talking about. I'm going to put out one more poll, and I'm leaving it out here as an affirmation more than anything because I feel like I'm probably talking to the choir. I'm sure that the people that are here today are people that are concerned about this sort of thing. And I can imagine what the results on this poll are going to be. I'm going to launch it now. And it says, if I'm honest with myself, I value respect for myself, others, and the earth. And I guess this is just one or the other. Yes, I value and respect myself and others and the earth, or no, I don't. And I can totally predict the answer to this, but I think I put it up there because, as a question anyway, because I want you to think about it. I want you to have a higher awareness of what your beliefs are so that you can move forward and take action on those ideas. Okay, we've got 9 more people that haven't put in their votes yet. If we could get 9 more people, if you haven't voted. So far, of course, it's 100%. It's like a no-brainer, isn't it? That, yes, I value respect for myself, others, and the earth. And the earth and Mother Earth. So we're talking about leave no trace. We're talking about leaving your camp location in better condition than when you found it. That you're going to use existing campfire rings and disassemble them, the ones that you build, and following best practices for burying your human and pet waste, not too close to water, trails, or a camp. And that includes your toilet paper. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe where I'm camping this summer. I've run into so many situations where, well, I haven't found any human feces, but oddly enough, there's scatterings of toilet paper laying around. Keep a plastic bag in your pocket and take it back with you and throw it away. Okay, here we are. We've had 20, the majority of people have already logged on. I'm going to end that poll. And as you can imagine, we are at 100%. I'm going to show the results. That yes, I value respect for myself, others, and the earth. Let that be your foundation going forward today. Let that be your foundation going forward for the year. And let's give nomads a good name. Let's give women a good name, men a good name, seniors, millennials, all of us. Let's help our community by having personal integrity and developing good reputations. With that, I'm going to check on the chat to see what kinds of questions. I see questions have been coming in. If you could, Alicia, come and give me a hand with that, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Phyllis. Guys, please send your questions to Phyllis on the topic of reputation is everything. To find your chat, for those of you who are new, just click on your the three little dots at the top of your screen under the word more, and you're going to find the chat option. Type your question in and press send. It will be sent to all panelists. Only at this time, you cannot communicate with other attendees until the top of the hour. Okay, Phyllis, I will read your questions in the order I received them. Robert Lilly says, good information, Phyllis. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Kathy asks, how do you find a public dumpster? Thank you so much, Phyllis. This is a wonderful talk and you have framed it beautifully.
Thank you for your kind words. You know, the public dumpster thing is a challenge, and I drive by all these businesses that have got their dumpsters out in the back parking lot, or hotels, and they've got them guarded by fences and gates and things. And they're so tempting because they're right there. And I just can't bring myself to do it because I know that those businesses are paying for that service. And by me going in and putting in my trash, just doesn't seem right. So what I do is I try to find local parks, because they'll have trash cans that are available and they are there for public use. I've been fortunate even at some of the parks to find dumpsters that are there and available. As I find that I go on the road, that many rest stops have either they have dumpsters or they have trash cans that are available to the public. So when I'm driving and I'm on the road, that's a very simple one. When I'm in town on a regular basis, I have to start scouting. And luckily I've found many places. Now, right now where I am in Southern Oregon, I'm having more difficulty finding that. Luckily, and this isn't always suitable for everybody, but luckily there are 2 landfills that are here that I can go to. Now that, unfortunately, they charge. They do, and some of them are only open 1 day a week. But I will do that. It's not my favorite thing to do, but I will pay to go to a landfill in order to get my trash gone. I will save it for 2 weeks, so I'm not going in there with a bag, but it'll be more instead a large trash bag. So it becomes a little more worth it to me. When you're down in the Quartzsite area, it's awesome because there are landfills and transfer stations down there that are very readily available. And that's the other thing too. You know, when you're camped with caravans with other people, combine your trash and have one person do the trash run. Hopefully not the same person every week, but still one person can do it for everybody. And then it becomes really well worth it taking it to a landfill. It's not easy, but I think it's a responsibility that we take on. Personally, I think it's a responsibility we take on, that we're not perceived as moochers and drags on the community. So for me, this is an important value that I hold. And I hope by us talking about it today that you start to think about it as well. All right.
Thank you, Phyllis. This one is similar, Phyllis, but it speaks specifically to BLM. Jean Jennery says, does BLM land have trash areas, or where are the most common areas to dispose of trash? Thank you.
You know, it's a really good question, Jerry. Part of the thing about trash is that you minimize it to begin with. And I know Alicia's awesome at this because she reuses and reuses and reuses. So her trash level is a lot less. This year, my goal is to reduce my trash level. And I've made one recent change that has reduced my trash in half, which is enormous. You know, that means that I don't have to go to someplace to get rid of trash every week. I can wait 2 weeks. Well, that's really nice, isn't it? So number one is to reduce trash. So when you come out of Walmart with your stuff, get rid of the stuff that's the packaging. When you get a package at general delivery at the mail, Get the box, get it out of the box, get rid of the box before you even go back out to camp. And there's should be a public trash can right there at the post office or right there at Walmart that you can put that in. So right off the top, you're reducing your trash. Now, if you're out on BLM land, some people seem to think that all of BLM land is a place to dispose of trash. It is not. You know that, and I know that. These people who are living without integrity also probably know that, but are living without integrity and leave it on BLM land. I also have done another thing beside, this also addresses your question about being on BLM land, Jerry. When I have a small burner. What it is it's a charcoal starter that you'd fill charcoal with it, put paper underneath and light it up, and that gets your charcoal fires going faster. Well, I use it as a small incinerator. So if I have papers, I burn those on BLM land. I'm out there on the desert concrete. It's not going to go anywhere. I don't walk away and leave it. And I burn it until it's all ash, and I scatter the ashes. So I've reduced my trash that way. Can you dispose of trash on BLM land? No. But can you minimize your trash so you have less while you're out there? Absolutely. All right, Alicia, I'm ready for the next one.
Okay, Joanne wants to know, Phyllis, what should one do when they watch a nomad throw trash on the ground and walk away like it's not their problem?
I have never seen that. Oh my gosh, I cannot imagine the anger that would rise in me. I mean, I think sometimes my behavior surprised me, and I think I would do something that's relatively forward. I would probably come in my rig, grab a trash bag, and walk back over there and say, "Hi, can I help you pick this up?" I mean, that's pretty darn forward. It's not confrontational, though. It's because I'm going in there saying, "May I help you?" And even offering the solution by bringing a bag. And I got to think about the different ways people might respond to that. They might be embarrassed and bring themselves back to the realization they're acting without integrity. But they also might get mad at me. And I can live with that, because then what I would do is I would start picking up the trash, putting it in the bag. And depending on the situation, I might hand it to them. But at the very last resort, I would take it back to my rig. I would not leave it there. And I would make sure that they saw my modeling, that they saw that this is not acceptable by everybody's standards. Not a pleasant way to start the day, is it? But I think it's necessary. We have to have integrity. All right, I'm ready. Next one.
Okay. Scott says, what are ways to educate people that you see doing it wrong and hurting the community reputation?
Well, Scott, I think that really falls in line with what I just was saying. I think it's so, we're not out here to teach people and correct people, but we can model good behavior, and we can help people live up to the best person they can be. And the way to do that is keeping your own integrity and being kind. So I hope that answers. I hope that's specific enough for you, Scott. All right.
Okay. And Jerry, sorry for the mispronunciation of your name earlier. Jerry says, our better question is, are there areas that there are not approved trash disposal areas? And if so, what do you do then?
Don't put your trash there. I'm sorry. It's not always convenient. It just isn't convenient. I don't want to pay when I go to the landfill. I don't want to pay $6 to get rid of my trash, but I do. It's part of the price I pay. Do I want to keep my trash on the floor of my rig under my, in front of my driver's seat for 2 weeks? No, I don't want to do that. But it's part of the price I pay to be a nomad. It's part of the price I pay to boondock. And it comes to an acceptance of that. I don't feel like I've got good news for you, Jerry. And I there are if it's not an approved place to dispose of trash on BLM, don't do it. You're hurting yourself. You're hurting us. You're hurting Mother Earth. You're hurting our reputation as in general with the BLM and with National Forest personnel. If I've still missed the point of your question, try one more time, Jerry.
Okay, Nomadic Foodie asks, what are some key phrases to ask people to behave better without being perceived as snooty busybody?
Okay, let's try this on. I would like to know if I said, this is directed specifically at you, Nomadic Foodie, so please respond in the chat. If I said to you, or you heard me say to somebody, oh, let me help you with that, as they're throwing something on the ground, or here, I have a bag for that, would you consider that snooty or being a busybody? I really want to know, because that's a pretty normal behavior for me. And I need to know if I'm being perceived as being a busybody or snooty. I don't think I am. I feel like I'm being helpful. So one of the key phrases is, may I help you with that? Oh, did you know you dropped this? That's another good one. And to me, it's about being helpful. It's not about being snooty or busybody. Would you please give me some feedback on that, Nomadic Foodie? Thank you.
And Laura says, thanks so much, Phyllis, for a sensitive topic, a mature approach, and an inviting participation. And Sue says, how do you recommend confronting someone who just parked too close?
Oh, this was one that was just on Facebook. And it was actually the one where I was talking about where there were all kinds of suggestions all over the charts about how to do this. And people were saying, well, just go out and talk to them. You get your thing. If you don't feel you can do that, pack up and leave. So part of the question feels like a setup, Sue, because what I hear you saying is, how do you recommend confronting someone who's just parked too close? I'm not much for confrontation. I don't like confrontation, but I do heavily encourage dialogue. And not dialogue doesn't work for everybody, but that's my first go-to, is let's go talk about it. So as soon as the person pulled up, I would kind of jump out and say, hey, hi, how are you doing? And it's not a confrontation. It's about ability to size the situation up. What's going on here? So hi, how are you doing? Are you looking for a place to camp? There's some really good places over there. And again, it's about being helpful, about being kind, and opening the communication. Now, it might turn out that the person is just not receptive, in which case it's time to pack up and go, because I can't make the person leave. I'm not going to resort to being nasty. I'm not going to resort to being confrontational. So I'm given two choices. One is to approach it with dialogue, with kindness, with an assumption the other person might not realize they're too close for comfort. And then the second one is, if that's not working, I don't know that I want to camp near somebody like that. So I'm packing up and moving. All right. Next.
Christine says, thank you so much. Looking forward to the YouTube upload so I can share it. And Darlene,
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I wonder if Christine has some special people she wants to send this to. Go ahead, Alicia, I'm sorry.
Okay, and Darlene sent in a long one, Phyllis, so I'll do one of her 4 questions, move on to the others, and I'll come back to you, Darlene, if there is additional time. She says, hello there. Thank you for doing this community building work. I'm planning to live on the road within the next year. I have 4 questions, not to have the campfire attention. Number 1, how can HOWA/nomads engage with locals about integrity and playing by the basic rules like leave no trace? It is an interesting juxtaposition, especially in these times.
How can HOWA nomads engage with locals about integrity and playing by basic rules like leaving no trace? I think, that's a really, really deep question. And what it comes to mind is by our actions. It's got to go back. All they know of us is what they see of our behavior and how we look. So I will never forget, Will Prowse is a YouTuber, and one of the first YouTubers I watched, and he talked a lot about stealth camping. And so what he said is, he made it very important. He says, what do you do to be out there and not draw attention of the authorities in a community when you're stealth camping? He says, well, number one, you dress nicely. He says, I always dress. He says, if he gets a knock on his door, he makes sure he's wearing a shirt with a collar and hopefully with a logo on the shoulder, on the pocket, that will show that, hey, I'm not some sort of low life, and I care about my appearance. And the other one that just cracked me up is he says, keep your wheels clean. So instead of having your wheels all dusty and mucky from mud or whatever else you're running through, he says, keep your wheels clean. Well, that transfers to your windows and other things too. So some of it boils down to appearance, and some of it has to do with your modeling behavior that shows that you do care about leave no trace, that you're not mooching off the community, instead that you're contributing to the community. So you're at the park and you put something in the dumpster, something doesn't quite get into the container, you bend down and pick it up and put it in. Somebody is going to see you. You are not doing this in a vacuum. If you leave it there, they're going to see that as well. And that's how you engage with locals about integrity. And as far as I just caught another thought about that. You might be talking about locals. If you're at a place where the locals come on weekend and they leave their trash behind, might be a whole nother matter. Boy, that's a hard one for me, because quite frankly, when I'm out camping and locals come in, I have a tendency to move further away. So I don't even engage with them. All I see is what's left when I come back to my spot, and they've gone back to town, and I might see a bunch of garbage there. If anybody else has suggestions besides picking it up ahead of, after they leave, I would like to hear what you would do, because that's pretty touchy, isn't it? These people have a different sense of entitlement because this is their weekend place. This is land that's close to their land, to their home, and they have this sense of entitlement and a sense of ownership that we might not have. Our sense of ownership has to do with taking care of the land, not necessarily because it's close to our home, like it is for them. I'd like to hear what the other viewers would have to say about that. All right, Alicia.
Okay, Christine says, how long have you been a nomad?
Christine, I've been on the road for 2 years full time.
Okay, and Wendy asked, how much do landfills cost?
Oh, okay. When I've been in Quartzsite and I've used they were not charging at Quartzsite at the transfer station or even at the landfill, but they were getting angry because people would come when they were closed and just dump trash out in front of the gate instead of coming back when they were open. So they started charging. Again, a way that one person's behavior is affecting the reputation for all of us and impacting all of us, isn't it? So I believe their fee was something like $6. And in Pahrump, I've been at the landfill there, and they don't charge at all. Here up in Southern Oregon, I'm finding that if I go to the really local landfill for me is not, it's considered regional for them, so they charge more, and they charge $13. If I go into town, because I'm going shopping anyway, and I go to the actual landfill itself, they charged $6. So I hope that helps you and gives you some ideas.
This is very similar, Phyllis. Warnick asked, when you went to the paid landfill, did they charge you by the pound? How much did it cost for a bag of trash, approximately?
And when I went, I'm going to tell you that I used a big construction bag. So those are really big and really heavy. And I was charged $6 at the actual landfill in town. You can, the websites for these are wonderful. If you Google what town you're in or what county you're in and Google landfills or dumps, they usually give you their locations and they give you your fees and their hours too, which is really important. Okay, next.
Deidre said, great ideas, thank you. Christine says, have you seen separate recycling bins or recycling receptacles hard to find?
I think so. I know that if you go to Pahrump, they've got wonderful recycling bins in the Walmart parking lot. If you uh, if you go to the landfills, sometimes I've seen that they'll have recycling, different dumpsters for recycling, but for the most part, no, I have not seen that.
Okay, and anonymous, if we are disposing of toilet matter, what doesn't make landfill people taking the trash cranky?
If we're disposing of human waste, you're saying, does it make the landfill people cranky? Did I get that right, Alicia?
I think that's it.
Well,
Phyllis, yes.
I don't usually tell them. I don't usually tell them, oh, look, here's my poop bag. But if you stop to think about it, and Bob has said this too on his videos, and I totally agree with it, this is no more than if you had a baby's diaper. It's the same sort of thing. Now I am shifting over my toileting process where I'm going to do more of a using coconut coir in order to desiccate the the solid waste, and then I'm going to be burying it. So now that's going to take even more work for me, but I think it's environmentally, I feel better about it. I feel like I'm not using these plastic bags with the gel in the middle of it and then taking it to the landfill. So I feel like for me, it's a step to honoring my value system more.
And
Okay.
here's a 2-for-1, Phyllis. Warnick and Hall for Life want to know, what was your practice to reduce your trash by 50%?
I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
Warnick and Hall for Life wants to know, what was your practice? What did you practice to reduce your trash by 50%?
Well, two things. One is that I learned from Alicia to reuse my paper towels. So just because I've put a little vinegar on them and wiped out a bowl, and the bowl is relatively, really not dirty. My paper towel is not really dirty. I open that up, I let it dry out, and I'll use it for the next bowl. So I've learned to be much more conservative with my paper toweling. This is going to be a little hard for me. I have no problem at all talking about poop bags and everything else, but for some reason I'm a little shy about this, but I'm going to do it because if it helps anybody, I'm all about that. So when I go pee, I used to use paper in order to clean myself up, and then I would dispose of that. Now, if you think about going pee 8 times a day, and if I use one paper towel, because I use paper towels, I don't bother with toilet paper. That's a lot of that's a lot of paper, and I don't reuse it. So, what I've switched to are I'm using. I'm going to show you so that you know what I'm doing. It's I just use a little washcloth, and I'll use one all day long, and then I get a fresh one out. And then when I get about, I'll show you one more thing here. So this morning I have this, and this is my washing machine, my manual washing machine. There's water and soap in there, and I put about 4 or 5 washcloths in there, and I shake it around. I let it sit for a while. Then I go through a rinse cycle with it and hang them out in the sun. That has been an enormous environmental change for me. It's cut my paper use down in half, and I feel so much better about it. I feel like I'm really becoming more off-grid. Very useful when paper towels were hard to get a hold of in the store too, let me tell you. Okay.
That's really a fantastic idea, Phyllis. Thank you for sharing it. So Jerry says, yes, thank you. This is in response to you, Phyllis, earlier. Yes, thank you. You had already answered the question by minimizing and disposing at landfills or transfer stations. I hadn't realized there were those available. Thank you.
Good. Good. I'm glad to hear that, Jerry. Good.
And then Laura says, my concern is a nomad at times spends time and money to select a space. So that to me is not an option to just pack up and go. More of a comment.
That's a personal choice, Laura. My comfort. I know what you mean about spending time and money, because you might have had to really, drive around to find it. So you're using gas, and you're certainly using your time. It's not like you can necessarily just say, "Well, I know where I'm going. I'm going to Holiday Inn, and so I know exactly where I'm going, and I'm going." You've got to go search, and it does feel like an invasion when somebody comes and parks too close. To just pack up and go feels like an additional violation. Not only did they come and park too close to you, but now you're the one who has to get up and leave. For me, it's not my first choice. My first choice is to go on out and talk to them and start a dialogue and find out who these people are. And maybe they need some assistance, or maybe they don't even realize that they've parked so close to you, or that it's a bother to you. So to talk about it first is my first choice. And I'm not happy if I have to go find another place. But you stop and think about it, though, Laura. How often does it even happen? I think only happened to me once. And it was a very simple situation, because I just went out and said, could you move over there? And they did, because it was somebody that was part of the caravan group, and it wasn't a problem at all. So I don't even know how often it happens. I do bet when it does happen, it's extremely annoying. But for my personality, if talking it out doesn't help, I'm going to leave, because I'm not willing to be that close. And on the same note, I've been invited to camp close to somebody, or come on over and camp in this area. Well, it's a very restricted area, and the only place I can be is 30 feet from their rig. I still say, are you sure? Are you sure? You've invited me to be here. The space restriction is still so small that I'm this close. Are you sure? And I think it's important for us to remember how we might be impinging on other people as well. Okay.
Thanks, Phyllis. We have 4 additional minutes to go, Phyllis. And Kathy said, you can't control how you are perceived, only your own actions.
Exactly.
I think the idea of being kind is key. Even if you offer to help or pick it up yourself, there will be some people who will take it as an affront because they know what they did is wrong.
Kathy,
and Robert,
I think Kathy's absolutely dead on that. I think so. Absolutely. Thanks for the feedback, Kathy.
And Robert says in Canada, there are littering laws with hefty fines, letting people know.
Yeah, Robert, and that's true here. There are some places with very hefty fines, but if you're not caught, you're not caught, and you don't pay the fine, and other people are left to look at your trash. And that's why we all need to model the behavior of not being a litterer.
And from Laura, with such a large amount of folks with mental health issues, I don't feel confident to approach someone about behaviors such as trashing an area.
Laura, there are, and we're not in a sticks and bricks situation where we are walled off from people. We are in the middle of it, and we do run into all kinds of people, absolutely wonderful people. Some of those wonderful people have some mental health issues, without a doubt. I find this is personal experience, that people that are treated kindly, whether they have mental health issues or not, are generally respond in kind. That's been my personal experience. Okay.
Wonderful. Nomadic Foodie says, that's a good answer for us. May I help you with that? That's good. I have tried. Hey guys, please leave no trace. I look a lot like you. I live in the Northeast and got sore by the family. So hostile, I felt unsafe. And so I left after halfway picking up their trash.
You have to call it as you see it. You're the one who was there. And I think the thing about, may I help you with that? I feel more comfortable with that. And like, hey, you guys, leave no trace. That's like, this, and I'm finger wagging at you. Of course, I had a sister that used to say, you can say anything you need to say as long as you say it in the right way. And so I could even imagine sometimes being able to say what you said, please leave no trace. If you have the right intonation, the right body language, people might just get along with it. But most people will respond to being offered help. Okay.
Right. And Darlene says, I'm just wondering if HOWA as an org engages locals. Thank you, Phyllis. Good ideas. Yes, weekenders have seen this a lot on YouTube. Very touchy. Seems as though the perspective is quite different, but maybe it doesn't need to be.
Yeah, HOWA has done a little bit of engaging locals. Like when we did the build out in Pahrump last year, we had an open house. It was wonderful. We had so many people stop by. They've been watching us all week. They wanted to know what we were doing, and they were so glad to be able to come in and talk to us. And that was awesome. I know that there are other people who are active volunteers with HOWA volunteer in the communities as well. So Ann Carlson, the executive director, volunteers with regional area medical services. I know that there's others that, they'll go and they work at the local food bank, or they go and they'll put their volunteer hours in a lot of different ways. But you're bringing up a really good thought, Darlene. How else do we involve? Like, what if HOWA organized cleanups and invited the public to join us in doing that? Not just the nomads, but maybe some of the locals. Make sure they knew we were doing it and were involved with us. Okay.
We're at the end of the class, Phyllis, so I just want to thank you for an extensive coverage of the topic, reputation is everything. As also thank you attendees for your attendance to HOWA's virtual caravan class, and we hope you enjoy your day. Phyllis will be staying behind for an additional 15 minutes to continue answering your questions in the chat.
Great. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. Please continue putting your questions in the chat, and I'm going to go off screen, but I'll be on chat and we can talk there. Thank you so much for all of your viewpoints and your wonderful questions. They've added a great deal of dimension to our conversation this morning. I'll talk to you down the road. Bye-bye.